Leaked footage of Rory McIlroy. At Ryder Cup goes viral Mroy. He was carrying every ounce of expectation from Rome 2023 on his shoulders. The chant started playful, echoing across the fairways like background noise. But by Friday afternoon, they had turned acidic. The same man once hailed as golf's golden diplomat now found himself the enemy on foreign turf. From the first tee, U.S. fans taunted him with shouts about his failed marriage and his anti-live golf stance, a toxic cocktail of sports rivalry and personal attack. Still, Mcilroy answered with his clubs. He drained a 20-foot birdie putt in the morning session, glaring at the crowd like he'd just silenced an entire nation. But the moment of dominance didn't last. Each hole became a verbal minefield, with fans testing how far they could go before crossing the invisible line of golf's so-called decorum. By Saturday, the line wasn't just crossed, it was obliterated. The stage was no longer about birdies and bogeys, but about one man versus an entire amphitheater of hecklers. The tension was so thick you could slice it with a wedge, and everyone watching knew this wasn't going to end quietly. "You, Rory? Oh, come on! Come on, man! Seriously!" Day one's tension ignited like dry grass. By midday Saturday, the crowd at Bethpage Black was no longer watching golf. They were auditioning for a riot. The taunts at Rory Mcilroy became laser-focused and venomous, calling out not just his swing but his life. "You fucking choker! Rory! Where's your wife now? Live golf's better without you," one fan screamed during a backswing, captured crystal clear on cell phone footage that would later rack up millions of views. It was supposed to be banter. It became bullying. Broadcast commentators could barely keep composure. Jim Bones Mai muttered that the atmosphere was getting out of hand, while others compared it to a football crowd gone rogue. The chants about his ex-wife, his accent, even his old rivalry with Patrick Reed, nothing was off-limits. Every swing carried emotional shrapnel, and Mcilroy, fiery as ever, refused to stay silent. When he finally snapped, pausing over a crucial putt to glare into the gallery, it was the moment the internet had been waiting for. Clips of his clenched jaw and muttered curses began circulating before he even left the green. The fans wanted a reaction, and now they had one. A spark in the powder keg. For years, Rory McIlroy had built a reputation as golf's eloquent statesman. He was the one who spoke thoughtfully in pressers, the one who championed the sport's traditions even while navigating its modern fractures. But this Ryder Cup was different. The 2023 matches in Rome had already set the tone. Tension between LEV defectors and PGA loyalists, personal history bleeding into national rivalry. When the cup shifted to American soil at Bethpage Black, it became a pressure cooker. Fans were louder, rowdier, and far less restrained. Every Ryder Cup has its villains and heroes. In Paris 2018, it was Patrick Reed versus Europe. In Whistling Straits 2021, it was Bryson versus Brooks. But in 2023, Rory became the lightning rod. Not because of anything he did on the course, but because of everything surrounding him off it. His very public separation had been tabloid fodder for months. His strong anti-live stance had alienated a portion of American fans who idolized some of the defectors. And his competitive fire, usually admired, became easy fuel for hecklers who wanted to see him crack. The viral clip. The footage that set the internet ablaze came during the Saturday afternoon four-ball match. Rory was facing a critical 8-foot putt on the 16th green, tied with Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. The hole was crucial. The crowd was unhinged. As Rory stepped into his stroke, a fan near the ropes yelled something vile, a jab that referenced his recent divorce, and a thinly veiled insult about his nationality. Rory backed off. For a moment, silence hung heavy over the green. Then, in a rare flash of raw emotion, he spun around, eyes locked on the gallery, and barked, Say that again. Dozens of phones were already recording. One angle, the clearest of them all, came from a fan in the second row, who caught every syllable, every grimace, every ounce of fury in Rory's eyes. The clip showed Rory taking 2 steps toward the ropes before his caddy intervened, gently pulling him back. It ended with Rory shaking his head, muttering something under his breath, and then draining the putt like a man possessed. Within minutes, the footage hit X and TikTok. Within an hour, it was trending globally. By Sunday morning, the headline wasn't about who was leading the Ryder Cup. It was about Rory Mcilroy versus the crowd. Reactions across the golfing world. The golfing community exploded with opinions. Some praised Rory for standing his ground. Others criticized him for letting the fans get to him. Former pros lined up on TV panels to weigh in. Nick Faldo called it the most hostile Ryder Cup crowd I've ever seen. Paul Azinger said, "You can only poke the bear so many times before it roars." Even players on Team USA were caught off guard. An anonymous player was quoted in a post-match interview saying, "I didn't think it would get that personal. Rivalry is one thing. What they said to him? It crossed a line." Meanwhile, fans online split into tribes. Camp 1. Rory overreacted. It's sport. Trash talk happens. Camp 2. There's a difference between trash talk and abuse. What those fans did was disgusting. Camp 3. This is what happens when golf becomes entertainment instead of sport. The leaked footage became symbolic of something much bigger, the sport's shifting culture. Golf, once known for its gentleman's code, was starting to feel more like a contact sport for the soul. Golf's new reality, fans with phones. For decades, the Ryder Cup was broadcast through official cameras with carefully curated angles. What happened in the crowd stayed in the crowd, but not anymore. In 2023, every spectator is also a broadcaster. Every emotional outburst, every whispered insult, every clenched fist can be immortalized and shared worldwide in seconds. The fan who posted the original clip, a 23-year-old from New Jersey, later gave an interview saying, "I just thought it was wild. I didn't think it would blow up like this. I'm not anti-Rory. I just captured what everyone saw." What once would have been a few hundred people's story became a global spectacle. The crowd's cruelty, Rory's anger, the high-stakes putt. It was the perfect storm for virality. Behind the taunts, why Rory became the target. This wasn't just about one putt. Rory Mcilroy had been building tension with American fans for months. The LIV Golf Divide. Rory was one of the most vocal critics of the Saudi-backed tour. His comments were sharp, unapologetic, and aimed directly at some of America's fan favorites who defected. For many fans, this made him the face of the other side. Personal life headlines. His marriage troubles had become gossip column gold. Even though Rory maintained dignity in public, the constant tabloid churn created easy ammunition for hecklers. The alpha competitor. Rory's fiery on-course personality is magnetic, but it also makes him a lightning rod. Unlike quieter players, he reacts, and fans who crave drama know exactly how to get under his skin. It wasn't just one insult that made him snap. It was months of noise building toward a breaking point. The caddy's intervention lost in the viral chaos was one critical figure, Harry Diamond, Rory's longtime caddy and childhood friend. In the leaked clip, it was Harry who stepped forward, putting a hand on Rory's chest as he moved toward the fan. Insiders later revealed that Harry had been trying to calm Rory down for several holes before the outburst. He knew Rory was boiling, a source close to Team Europe said. You could see it in his body language. That putt was the final spark. The bond between Rory and Harry goes beyond golf. They grew up together. Harry isn't just a caddy. He's the one person who can speak to Rory in moments of fury and actually be heard. That day, his quiet intervention may have prevented the situation from spiraling even further. The aftermath in the locker room. What happened next was perhaps even more revealing than the viral clip itself. Inside the European locker room, Rory reportedly slammed his locker door and launched into an emotional tirade. Several teammates tried to calm him down. According to a team source, he wasn't just angry at the fans, he was angry that golf had gotten to this point, that this was what the Ryder Cup had become. It was Shane Lowry who cracked a joke to diffuse the tension, turning Rory's glare into a reluctant smile. But the mood was unmistakable. Europe's star had been pushed to his edge. PGA officials, respond. By Sunday morning, the clip had accumulated over 45 million views. Tournament officials could no longer ignore it. A brief statement was released. The Ryder Cup is a celebration of competitive spirit and respect. While passion from fans is part of the event's unique atmosphere, personal attacks on players are unacceptable. Security has been instructed to increase crowd monitoring. But for many, the statement felt too little. Too late. Social media was flooded with criticism. Where was this energy when it was happening? Words don't protect players. Security was tightened. Several fans were reportedly escorted out of the grounds, but the damage was done. The Ryder Cup had already shifted from tournament to spectacle. Rory faces the media. That evening, Rory faced the press. He sat behind the microphone with that trademark mix of calm and simmering intensity. "I've been in Ryder Cups where fans are loud. That's part of the fun," he began. "But there's a difference between passion and personal abuse. When it crosses that line, it's not banter anymore. It's something else." He didn't name the fan. He didn't raise his voice, but every word carried weight. When asked whether the heckling affected his game, he paused. "I won the hole," he said with a half smile. The room broke into awkward laughter, but the message was clear. Rory might bend, but he doesn't break easily. The Sunday Roar. By the time Sunday's singles matches rolled around, Rory wasn't just playing for points. He was playing for pride. His walk down the fairway on the first tee was met with a wall of noise, some cheers, some jeers, but mostly a strange hush of anticipation. Everyone knew they were watching a man with a score to settle. Rory went on to play one of the best rounds of his Ryder Cup career. Every birdie felt like a retort. Every fist pump was a statement. When he drained a curling 25-footer on the 14th, he didn't celebrate. He just stared into the gallery. A silent, burning look that said everything. For many, this wasn't just golf anymore. It was theater. Commentators. Way in across networks and podcasts, the debate raged on. Was Rory's reaction justified? Was fan behavior out of control? He stood up for himself. "That's leadership," one former captain said. "You can't let the crowd dictate your emotions," another argued. "This isn't golf anymore. It's a circus," a third lamented. The Ryder Cup has always thrived on tension, but for the first time, it felt like the crowd had become the main character. Sponsors and image control. Rory's sponsors moved quickly to manage the situation. While some feared the outburst might tarnish his carefully built image, others saw the opposite, a raw, human moment that resonated with fans tired of sanitized sports. On Instagram, one comment summed up the general mood. "He's not a robot. He's a competitor. This is why we love Rory." His fiery reaction didn't cost him fans. If anything, it deepened the mythology around him. He wasn't just the polished champion anymore. He was the man who stared down a hostile crowd and didn't flinch. Golf's culture clash. The leaked footage didn't just spark a conversation about Rory. It forced the golf world to confront its cultural shift. Golf has long prided itself on etiquette, silence during swings, polite applause, hushed reverence for greatness. But in the age of social media, viral clips, and rowdy international crowds, The sport is changing. Some believe this new energy is good. It makes golf more accessible, more exciting. Others fear it's eroding the very traditions that make the sport unique. Rory's moment became the symbol of that clash. Old golf versus new golf. Silence versus noise. Respect versus chaos. The fan's perspective. A few days after the Ryder Cup, the fan who yelled the initial insult gave an interview. He claimed it wasn't meant to be personal and that he just got caught up in the atmosphere. But the damage had already been done. His words had traveled across the world, dissected, condemned, and replayed millions of times. One moment of drunken heckling became a permanent stain on the event. Rory's final word. On the flight home, Rory posted a single message on X. "Say what you want. I play for my team. Always have. Always will." It was liked over 1.2 million times in 24 hours. Fans flooded the replies with support. Players from both sides privately messaged him. In one weekend, Rory Mcilroy went from being the target of vitriol to the symbol of resilience. Legacy of the leaked clip weeks. Later, as the viral storm cooled, one thing became clear. This moment would live on in Ryder Cup history. Just like the War on the Shore of 1991 or the Battle of Brookline in 1999-2023 at Bethpage Black had its defining flashpoint. Only this time, it wasn't about a winning putt or a miraculous comeback. It was about the thin line between passion and poison, and how one man stood in the eye of the storm. Epilogue. Golf's future after the fire. Golf's governing bodies have already begun internal discussions about fan behavior, crowd control, and security for future events. Technology, it seems, is both a gift and a curse. For Rory Mcilroy, the leaked footage didn't break him. It forged something new, a more battle-hardened version of the man who has carried European golf on his shoulders for over a decade. And for the sport itself, the Ryder Cup may never sound the same again.